asking for oat milk when there are superior dairy alternatives, like almond milk, soy milk, and whatever it's called when you just cry into a dry bowl of cereal.
I feel like that was probably meant to be a joke, but it wasn't funny in the slightest, so here's a sin.
Homelander might bark a little, but he won't bite.
Madeline Stillwell has entered the chat, suggesting that Homelander barking with his laser eyeballs is at least as effective as his bite.
Well then, I suppose it's a good thing Edgar isn't Stillwell. Otherwise, this sin might actually have a point.
The way I heard it, you filmed a couple of punters from the Interior Ministry having a right old frolic under your golden shower.
Show does not have subtitles to explain what language this is or what Butcher just said.
He said that little Nina filmed some members of the government doing the nasty in a scandalous way. It wasn't that difficult to understand. Not to mention that you literally had your editors write the subtitles for this scene, so this whole sin is complete bullshit.
Well, that's the US government, love. They'll just print more.
Acting like the U.S. government has an exclusive deal with the concept of printing, or that anyone actually understands how inflation works. That's why you want to invest in solid gold, because dance never depreciates.
Boring!
Starlight and I are in love.
Nick and Vanessa Lachey aren't needlessly here, making me question whether or not they understand metaphor or seriously think the concept of love may have a visual impairment.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture ref.
It'll work. What'll work?
Clearly not your super hearing, Homelander. That only seems to work when the plot needs it. But even so, the greater sin is that Starlight and Huey don't just assume he heard everything and adjust their plans accordingly.
This sin has got to be one of the dumbest I've heard in a while, which is really saying something. First, the whole thing about Homelander's super hearing is something that I've already debunked in previous videos, so I don't feel like explaining it again. Second, he complains about Huey and Starlight not altering their plans when that's exactly what they do. The moment they realize Homelander heard them, they lie about their conversation. Jesus, the stupidity is palpable.
Black Lives Matter is my favorite hashtag. My Insta, nothing but black screens.
Why does Ashley appear to have plot armor? Homelander could easily replace her with Ashley's assistant, Ashley. None of these soups have any good reason to put up with her patronizing bullshit.
Except for the fact that she's good at her job and Homelander keeps her around because she's easy to intimidate and will follow his orders to the letter.
This show usually nails the satire, but this commercial is just so unbelievable. It's completely absurd. A big corporation thinking they could use a social movement to sell a beverage? Seriously. Let's take, for example, I don't know, a world-class brand like Pepsi, and just try to imagine them promoting their cola off the back of the civil rights movement. And then, after you're done imagining it, go check out the Commercial Sins video that expertly sums up everything wrong with the actual real-life commercial.
This whole sin was a promotion for the even more boring Sins channel that fumbles their way through commercials. I think I'm gonna give this 10 sins. Wait, actually, no. In this very sin, Discount Jeremy admitted that the show is satirical, which means he knows all of those previous sins he's given are illegitimate, which by extension means that he's fully aware of his own dishonesty. This shit is getting 50 sins.
Thanks, Vic.
First time flying private, kid?
Not waiting the appropriate amount of time after your boy hangs up with his boss before loudly discussing how you're absconding on a private jet for the weekend. If you're not careful, you won't be invited on the next boys' trip.
Pointless sin that has no bearing on the show is pointless.
Then you're an entourage.
Butcher giving advice to his friends
Mean is when I made Jess Mancini ride her bike home after I asked
that I wouldn't give to my enemies. We're supposed to at least kind of hate like him, right?
You're supposed to come to your own subjective conclusion about him. The show isn't telling you how to feel. You're not 5 years old anymore, Discount Jeremy. Make up your own mind.
I heard that you stopped training. Yeah? You also hear that I wake up 6 days a week, hungover, deep in some random well.
Starlight doesn't say, no one's saying that, so we could be treated to a wonderfully awkward silence as Maeve tries to find a way to redirect the conversation.
I'm sure you and Duluth's Most Mighty would really get the job done.
The spinoff we wanted versus the Gen V we got.
Sinning Gen V. Wait. Sinning Gen V.
He's sitting here all sad while he's ridiculed by the TV, instead of figuring out how he can use his apparent world fame to his benefit.
Assuming that everyone is exactly like you and wouldn't be bothered by unwanted world fame.
Also, would Butcher really bring a famous government employee on a covert mission?
Yes.
Well, technically he didn't ask you to be his gun. He asked you to cut the target's throat, which would make you more like a dagger. Semantics, I know, but that's pretty much what I do around here.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Isn't it obvious? You're the only girl I've ever loved, Annie January.
I'll have to skip.
I'm f***ing with you. Get over yourself.
Well, seems I was mistaken. This guy's hilarious, and I'm sure he'll have a very long and fruitful career in the 7.
This kind of joke got really old when he was making it back in the days of Game of Thrones, and it hasn't gotten any better since.
Is your idiot brain getting by stupid.
Was thought to be such a brilliant piece of writing that it should be used not once,
Is your idiot brain getting by stupid?
not twice,
My idiot brain is getting by stupid, ma'am.
but 3 times a lady. If you didn't get that reference, it's past your bedtime.
Oh, okay. Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture
Like Ashton Kutcher the clownfish.
Seems Punk'd got a lot darker in the later seasons than I remembered.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop.
Stop. What if he hears you?
He either won't or it won't matter, because as we've already had to establish earlier in the episode, the effectiveness of his super hearing is heavily tied to plot necessity.
And I've already debunked this nonsense, so you should really stop repeating it. Just because Homelander has super hearing doesn't mean he can automatically hear everything happening everywhere. He still has to focus on sounds for his brain to process them.
Stealing the wielding fight scene from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Considering Everything Everywhere All at Once was released in March of 2022 and Season 3 of The Boys was released in June of 2022, they didn't really have time to steal this concept. Instead, this should be classified as
Have happy accidents.
Just remember, he deserves this.
Thing I told myself shortly before throwing a water balloon filled with Sprite at Tommy McGinty in the 5th grade somehow makes it into the script.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
You thinking of popping my melon? Who knows? Give it a whirl.
The idea that Newman could possibly kill Homelander is going to keep me invested for at least one more season, isn't it?
And the sin here is... You know, when there isn't actually a sin, you really shouldn't pretend that there is.
Then why are you still here? Looking for my approval, like I'm your daddy?
Script is just outright asking itself questions it doesn't know how to answer.
Except it does know how to answer this question. Homelander has extreme daddy issues and views Edgar as a father figure due to the way that Edgar has been able to put him in his place, which is something that nobody else has ever been able to do. Just pay attention to the show, dude. It's really not that hard.
Any idea what this soup gun is supposed to look like?
It's probably the only thing in the room that looks both dangerous and capable of holding a significant amount of broth.
Are you going to make a point or say something funny? No? Okay.
Thinking I wouldn't notice Bones leading an away team into a secret lab where they discovered a tribble.
Discount Jeremy makes a...
The glass cracking is some convenient bullshit. The glass budget in this lab is ballooned way out of control.
Or maybe this hamster is superpowered and the glass is simply too weak to avoid cracking, which isn't convenient no matter how many times you say it is.
Are hamsters naturally murderous? Or does this mean that V makes you psychotic? Or is this particular hamster just vengeful for its imprisonment? Why has this episode been f***ing about with all the Homelander side story instead of taking the time to answer these important questions?
I guess this was meant as a joke, but first of all, it wasn't remotely funny, and second of all, he seems to be aware that questions like these are completely inconsequential. Yet he still asks them all the time, thereby wasting everyone's time and boring us all to death.
Was bringing sufficient ammunition an oversight, or did they plan it this way so Butch Sassity and the Dumb Dance Kid would have a reason to use their Temp V powers?
I'd love for Discount Jeremy to explain to me how he expects them to see the future in order to know how much ammo they'll need ahead of time. You realize none of them have the power to see the future, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Huey didn't know he could punch through a man who probably had a wife and kids, but he sure grabbed and punched him like he knew his fist would go through the guy and leave his family without a father. No amount of apologies will make this not premeditated murder.
Okay, and what's the sin? I mean, sure, killing people is bad in real life, but the show isn't suggesting otherwise, so there isn't any legitimate sin here.
After being asleep for a few decades, Soldier Boy needs to immediately do a discount Iron Man chest blast. I'm guessing it's to be rid of his morning wood.
Discount Jeremy says boner.
If Homelander can just get away with killing Supersonic, why does he not kill more often? I mean, he just leaves Starlight here with a body of evidence. What about Stan getting fired makes him more immune to consequences than he was before?
Because Stan was the only person who had the balls and the ability to stand up to Homelander and give him consequences. Dude, how difficult is it for you to just watch the show? You shouldn't be talking about it if you haven't even watched a single second of it.
There will be no more plotting, planning, playing around.
Be careful, I'm pretty sure these are the same instructions that got us season 7 and 8.
I'll always remove a sin for a decent jab at the later seasons of Game of Thrones.
Two shots of vodka